All right, brothers and sisters in Christ. We got a very special one here today.
Special, very special.
Very special. Let's just get right into it. We got John and James Nelson, brothers in Christ, as I mentioned. brothers in brotherhood. Brothers in blood.
Brothers from the same mother.
From the same mother. So what's that like, growing up as like being brothers?
Well,
who kicked each other? Who got their ass kicked more? You or John did, huh?
Tell you the funny, John. We had an older brother named Joseph.
Okay, I was wondering what his name was because me and Bracken, my wife, were arguing. She's like, they do not have an older brother. I'm like, I promise you, James has an older brother. Anyway,
he abused us.
Both of you.
He abused us.
Joseph was the
He James deserved it most of the time.
So John got, it wouldn't even, it goes beyond bullying. He got mentally invaded.
Mentally invaded?
So he would say things like, John, put a sock in your mouth and sit in the corner. And he'd do it.
John would do it.
He'd do it. Or we'd be driving home from church, and we lived in Idaho, so we were far away from the church.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of iffy on religious freedom over there, obviously. And we would be driving home, and Joseph would pull off to the side of the road. He'd say, John, get out. John would get out, and he'd walk home.
It's not a joke. It's something serious I had to go through, everyone, but...
And John, me and Jackson used to pull a bunch of pranks on him.
On John?
So this one time, my mom came home, and she was really stressed out. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and we all had chores we had to do before we went to bed. And John's job, he had to do the counter.
Oh.
And
counter guy, huh?
My mom walks in, she's got all these groceries, sets them on the counter, and she's stressed out of her mind.
Right.
You know,
as moms are.
Boomba class was, or whatever it's called, was pretty hard.
Yeah.
She had like 6 kids at the time, or 5 kids at the time at home. So
okay,
if that's hard, I guess. And anyway, she's really stressed out. She drops off the groceries on the counter, and she goes, John, so help me God, if the counter's not clean by tomorrow morning, I'm gonna kick your ass, word for word. And John goes, okay, Mom, I'll do whatever you want. And, you know, me being clever, sitting in the corner, I was eating a banana. That's not relevant. But I was sitting there, for whatever reason, the thought just came to me, I'm gonna mess this up. So I took a picture of where everything was on the counter.
Okay.
John proceeds to put everything away. Puts everything away meticulously. It looks spotless. As soon as John goes upstairs to bed, I crawl upstairs from the basement and I put everything back in the exact same spot.
Is this real, John?
It's a true story. It's a true story. It's actually happened. I wish I could say that it's all a dream.
For whatever reason, my mom woke up at 5 a.m. the next morning.
Oh my god.
I set my alarm clock so I could watch this unfold. And she comes upstairs and she goes, John! Ballantyne! Nelson! And I hear her run up the stairs in full sprint. She flicks on the light. She goes, John, what the hell did you do? And John's like, well, I don't know what's going on. And John doesn't, he thinks it's a dream because it's 5 a.m.
Right.
And she's like, why didn't you put away the groceries last night? And John's like, what do you mean I didn't put away the groceries?
Poor John, man.
My mom grabs him by the ear, yanks his head, they're running downstairs.
Oh,
and John's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then he sees the counter. He's like, there's no way. There's no way. And John,
all right, hang on.
John starts crying.
Hang on. I never cried. But I was shouting my innocence at the top of my lungs. Okay, I was 13 years old. I said it had, and she was getting on my case. I said it had to be James. It had to be James. It had to be James. And she looks, so our kitchen was right here, and then the stairs were right next to it, going downstairs to James's room. And she just said, she just yelled at me, she said, James! And James didn't even say anything, he started laughing. Because she was expecting him to be asleep. So
because
he couldn't help himself.
Because John goes, it had to be James. It was James. And my mom goes, James would never do that.
Oh my god.
James would never do that.
How did you feel?
I was laughing uncontrollably downstairs, trying not to make a sound. And John goes, Mom, just ask him, I promise, just ask him.
Oh my god.
But John's putting all the groceries away right now. My mom comes in, turns on the light, And I couldn't. And so my mom honestly didn't even get that mad at me. She started laughing too because she thought it was funny.
She was mad for like 2 weeks after that.
But I ended up
weeks.
having to wake up and put all the groceries back, but it was worth it.
That's taken to the next level.
Jackson did something even better than this though. When Jackson was like 9 years old.
Jackson's our little brother.
I was gonna say just to prep. He's your little brother.
So we got 5 brothers and 2 sisters. It goes Jesse, Joseph, Jane, James, John, Jackson, and Jedi.
Lots of J's, brother.
All J's. There's 7 J's.
That's a lot of J's.
Right, and it's the J spot. So. Anyway.
The J spot. All right. It's the J spot.
That's going to be our podcast.
The J spot. That's actually pretty good. I'd listen to that.
All 7 of them down there.
Yeah. So anyway, it was January, and Jackson was always pulling pranks on people, even when he was very young. He was 9 years old. I don't know how he thought about this, but John used to have to wake up like 6 in the morning and walk with his cello, right?
No. That was Kate. Hang on, you're messing it up. This was. I didn't have to bring it home or anything. I was the only sibling or kid in our house that had to go to junior high. James was. Were you in high school at that point? Were you a sophomore?
I was a freshman.
You were a freshman. But for some reason, James never took the bus. I had to take the bus. I don't know how he got to school. He went with my sister Jane, but I like to get there early because I was a good kid. I try to get to school early.
He goes to BYU now.
And so it's in the middle of January. You get up 8 o'clock or whatever, 7 o'clock. It's just pitch black outside, right? But for some reason, someone, Jackson, decided to change my alarm clock 3 hours in advance. So I woke up at 5 in the morning, showered, brushed my teeth, went all the way, walked a quarter mile to my bus stop and came, and I was there for a little bit, and then I finally checked my little iPod, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was there like 2 hours early.
So, why was it always you, John? Why did you get picked on?
Because I just minded my own business. People couldn't handle my simplicity.
I will say this about John. John, in school, I always freaking admire. You're just always the nice guy. But unfortunately, a lot of times the nice guy gets picked on. But you were the nice guy.
Yeah. Nice guys finish last.
So anyone that wants to know John Nelson, you need one thing. This is what I got out of it. He had a bunch of brothers that picked on him. Relentlessly. But John is still the nice guy.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. No, it really informs his character. When I was in high school, I had a gardening business.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, my gosh. You'd read freaking plant books.
Hang on. My turn to tell a story.
Let me tell a story. Let me tell this one.
So one time, it's in the summertime before my sophomore year.
And I'm 15
years old.
John, let me phrase this real quick.
I'm awakening
John,
from this great slumber I have after going to football practice one day.
John, let me
I'm upstairs.
No.
I'm looking for some food because I'm a growing boy. And I just woke up from a nap.
So you're looking for food. You woke up from your nap.
Yep. It was probably like 11.
Is this about the gardening business?
It's a major component.
It'll tie into the gardening. Okay.
This is a very
and this is a true story. And let me tell you something, Creighton. If there's anyone that wished it was more fake than me, I want to meet him, because it was truly a sight.
So wait. So you wanted it was.
It was so outrageously strange that I just wanted it to not be true.
But it is true. Okay, let's get it. What is this? You're intriguing me, John.
All right, so
I'll provide context after the story.
So I'm walking up the stairs because we moved to a different house, and I lived downstairs, and James lived upstairs now. So I was downstairs, and I woken up from my second sleep or whatever. It was around 11 o'clock, and I go upstairs and there's James playing classical music on his iPad to an array of plants. What? He was in his underwear with sunglasses on, and I just what? So this was no one made him do this. This is in the comfort of his own home.
Is it like supposed to help the plants grow better?
Being in your underwear?
It's not supposed to. It does.
Oh,
In
it
your
does
underwear.
Okay,
It's not supposed to, it does,
It's not what I do with my plants in my private time. Is nobody else.
Alright, hey, if we're gonna swap embarrassing stories, I mean,
Hey,
I got a couple in
Okay,
there. Don't
okay,
just
okay. No, here's what I'll say about this. Okay, do I have a passion for gardening? Sure,
I know.
it's a pastime. I had a gardening business. You know, I visited Thomas Jefferson's garden back in Virginia.
Dang.
Very elegant, and it inspired me that if I was to be an American statesman, I also needed to have a garden.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So,
What kind of garden now?
there was an array of plants, vegetables, fruit.
no flowers. It was
No
all-
flowers?
It was
I'm not like that.
No, flowery
It was
garden.
the type of
Flower.
garden where it would yield.
Yeah, it would
Okay.
bloom. So, anyway, okay. Classical music has been scientifically proven to enhance the ability of certain plants to grow faster.
Why is that?
Because, believe it or not, plants have on some level an awareness of what's going on. Believe it or not, they've actually scientifically tested plants.
I'm choosing not to believe it.
Okay, but you can look this up. You can look this up.
Did it work for your plants?
I like to think it did.
Okay.
But did you have a control variable?
I did not have a controlled variable.
Okay.
However, I had read books where two different warehouses, one played classical music, the other one didn't play classical music, and the one that had classical music grew faster. So,
Could you argue that was also due to you and your underwear, though?
well,
Could
I
the
like to
plant
think it's
sense
more.
What if it just
I
wanted
think
to get
it's-
away from you?
I think
It
it's.
saw
I
you
think
and
it's.
just
Threw
threw
it
it.
away.
I think it's more to do with the sunglasses because I was wearing aviators.
Oh, okay.
What if you put the
now-
plants Kenny Chesney? Would they grow faster?
No.
Has to be classical music.
Okay, I'm kind of an authority on this. So-
Kenny, if you see this, you got a hater.
Okay, well, let me just put this out there, all right?
Make sure Kenny sees this, everybody.
When I was in high school,
Make Kenny see this.
when I was in high school, all right, I had a gardening business, all right, and I was proud of this gardening business. I worked really hard at it, and luckily I had a helper, because
Guessing it's
John, between his freshman year and his sophomore year, my mom gave me complete authority over him. I had the ability-
John was yours.
he was mine,
Because I was a troublemaker,
and
apparently.
he
We'll
first
get
of
into
all,
that later. Don't worry.
let me just tell this. He would take 2 naps a day. So what would
Whoa,
happen?
whoa! Finish your gardening story because I was going to talk on that, and it's
Okay.
It's my side. Of the story. So don't-
I'll finish the gardening story.
Finish the
right?
gardening story, yeah.
So now, John, it's kind of a broader story, but you can explain it.
I will.
Is that John? I had complete authority and control over John
right.
because John had a lot of potential and a big frame, and he just wasn't using it that well. So my mom gave me complete control over his workouts, his diet, his phone, social life. I basically controlled him.
John, do you second this? Is this true?
Not social life. I still did what I wanted.
Yeah, he did.
But from the hours of 1 o'clock in the morning to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon was
yeah.
Oh,
You were James.
You were James.
So
I was
used to-
Robin Batman.
So
That's the way I
I
think about it.
yeah. So
You can take names. You know what I mean?
So I used to, like, for example, when I started taking John to the gym at Pace and Total Fitness,
Yeah.
there's this rope that's like 35, 40
Oh,
feet
I
high.
remember that one, yeah.
And there was this bell at the top of it. And before me and John would work out, I would say, John, we're not moving, we're not getting out of this room until you touch that bell. First day, it took him about an hour to do it. He didn't want to do it, but eventually he did it. And then the next day, it took him about 10 minutes, and then he just got to the top on the first try. So John was going through a phase where he was growing into his body.
Okay.
He was learning to work hard. And I'd make him run the Spanish Fort Cross.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't running fast enough, I'd throw rocks at his feet. And stuff like that. But, well, that's another time. So, anyway, I had this gardening business, and it was a big plot. It was well over an acre.
What? Really? Where?
It was along Salem Canal.
It was
It was in somebody's backyard.
our dad had moved into his old mission president's house, and then there was a area back
Oh,
there.
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It wasn't too far away from
Fun fact, me and your dad served in the same mission.
Yeah.
Portugal, Lisbon.
That's right.
There you go.
So, anyway,
Okay,
I
with
was...
this gardening business though,
Huh?
like, did you sell plants to people?
I,
Or like sell
I
vegetables?
sold. I actually ended up selling a few. It wasn't crazy.
For a total profit of $13.
I made probably, I don't know, a few $100.
All right.
Honestly.
That's right.
Hey, John wouldn't know.
Hey, over under $50. Your life depends on it. What do you say? What are you taking?
Taking over the 50 for sure.
Okay.
No,
Wow,
I ended up I had like a lot. I ended up planting way too much cantaloupe and way too
much cantaloupe.
A lot of cantaloupe, a lot of onions, a lot of not cauliflower, but
Broccoli.
Zucchini. I had a lot of zucchini, like way too much zucchini. So anyway, I would tell John, "Hey John, we're gonna go get a drink at a soda shop, and we're gonna go get food at Cubby's," and then I'd be driving. And John would go, "Oh, you missed the turn." And I say, "We're not headed to Cubby's. We're headed to the garden."
So dumb.
The funny thing about this is, to me, like, this sounds like complete bullshit,
but it's
100% true.
It's 100% true, everyone.
It's so true. That's awesome. All right.
So what would you make John? Just like weed for you, water,
weed, water,
Who's
whatever.
the main weeder?
Sometimes you have to prune the plants to make them. You have to take off the bad leaves and the kind of the bad flowers to make them bloom better. So we do pruning. We do weeding. At one point, I was gone in Vegas for like a week playing basketball, and he had to take care of the garden.
Did he do a good job?
No, he did not. A few of the plants actually died.
Yeah.
But no, John. That summer, I made John do a lot of terrible things that he did not want to do, like running the cross, working out every day, staying after practice to work hard. And John ended up learning to like the grind. He ended up staying after on his own, getting up early on his own, running the cross on his own. We used to swim in Spanish Fork Reservoir after we ran. So we did an entire summer of that, and he learned really the work ethic and what it took to play college football. And after I graduated in 2018, he did it himself, and now he's a starting defensive lineman at BYU.
So this came from a story about your garden to how that translates to him being a top-tier athlete.
And I like to think that there's a spiritual component to it as well.
There's not a big spiritual component to it.
Okay, so
but there is some correlation between people making your life miserable and you getting better.
So do you, John? So here you are. You're playing. You're a hometown hero. People love watching you. It's fun. Kind of runs in your guys' family, I feel.
Yeah,
so now you're able to do this. Do you actually attribute a lot of it to James, or is he talking out of his ass?
He's talking out of something. But no, I've told him before. I attribute a lot of it, but I was the guy playing on Fridays, so I had to do that part myself. But
yeah, that's true. That's
no,
a good
but that is most. I want to say that these stories are fake, as you said, but no, they're true. So, I've already told James a couple times that I'm happy for the example he kind of set for me and everything he put me through. But it's not to say we didn't have a few laughs along the way.
We sure had a few laughs. The only way to get through miserable things is
Just
to laugh about it.
Yeah.
And I will say I laugh a lot with you guys. Every time I see you guys, I know it's probably not going to be a serious conversation.
No.
At all.
No.
But I always know it'll be a fun conversation. So that's always a good time.
Yep.
I want to know how your mom dealt with all of you guys. Like, are the brothers, are they similar to you two?
I feel like y'all
your
are pretty
brothers?
similar,
Yeah,
right?
we're pretty similar.
The dynamic between me and John is kind of similar to the dynamic between Jackson and Jedi.
Oh, really? So Jackson is you,
Yeah.
and Jedi is John.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
They called Jackson Rat.
yeah, they call him.
It's okay. It's because he called everyone rat first.
Yeah.
Really?
So it
Okay.
turned on him. And
Gotcha. Now
kinda,
he's Rat.
He kind of hates it now.
I can't. My brother-in-law, he always when he doesn't call him Jackson, he calls him Rat.
Yeah.
I didn't know who that was for the longest time. I'm like, who the freak is Rat? And I found out it was your little brother.
Yeah. And really a lot of this, like work ethic, drive, vision, athletically to play at the next level, a lot of it came from Porter and
Okay,
my
yeah,
parents
yeah,
as
yeah.
well. So it kind of, me being with Porter, it made...
Who's Porter? Just so I
So
know.
Porter Gustin, how do I...
You're good. Let's make sure I'm filming. One of these days,
You didn't know you were filming?
I get scared I'm not
30
filming.
minutes in and it's
Gosh,
just us just talking.
it scares me so bad.
Every time he ends it, like he walks up there, I'm like, one of these times he's going to press play. And we'll
Yeah.
go like
It's gonna
an hour.
happen. It's gonna happen.
So Porter Gustin currently plays for the Dolphins. He's also played for the Browns and the Saints. He lived in he's my cousin, so he's my mom's brother's son. He played at Salem Hills his junior and senior year. Probably the best athlete to come through Salem, Utah in history. played 4 sports in high school, excelled at all of them. Obviously plays professional. He was an All-American at USC. And his grind and his work ethic is kind of legendary around here. For example, we used to go elk hunting in the mountains, and he would bring dumbbells in the backpack with him, so he could at least get somewhat of a pump. And that's a true story.
Yep.
Yeah, so he could get at least somewhat of a pump in the outdoors. He hasn't had a drop of sugar since he was about 14 or 15 years old.
That's so cool. I can't do it.
Yeah, he's a freak athlete. He's kind of like, I think he's like a folk hero around here.
Yeah.
Like he's almost more myth than it is real. But
like Paul Bunyan.
Like Paul Bunyan. I mean,
he's got the beard now, right?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of stories about Porter that people just would not believe. That they probably shouldn't hear.
I was going to say I want to hear the craziest Porter story, but
I don't know if you can share.
no,
Not on here.
I don't even.
I've heard rumors, but
Yeah, rumors are probably true.
I wish, I didn't live in Salem when he played here. I wish I would have watched him play in high school. That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah, no, he was a force. He was a force to be reckoned with, and
But what you're saying is, so he was a big influence on you guys, at least athletically speaking.
Yeah,
right.
100%. And his parents were. I mean, my mom played at BYU basketball. She was an all-conference player there. Porter's parents. Porter's mom was an All-American at BYU, and she played basketball there. Mm. And then his dad was a quarterback at Wyoming. My dad played at Boise State for a year for basketball. So our parents, our family, been a big influence on us.
We got Lauren Guston. Shout out to her, tearing it up at
fellow BYU athlete
at BYU.
She now
going crazy.
She's tied with her mom for all-time career points at BYU.
No way!
Wow.
I saw she just hit 1,000.
Yeah, she's at 1,000 rebounds and 1,000 points.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
that's cool. Like, how cool is that? I mean, especially for you, like, how is it cool to have like a cousin competing at the same college level as you and exceeding like that well, and you too. You know what I mean? So how cool is that?
Yeah, that's awesome. Go to a lot of the games and have a good time. Family comes out, and it's good to have another aspect of kind of like my feelings toward BYU, if that makes sense. Like I already appreciate so much of like what they've done for me and everything, and now just to have like my own family going over there and competing in a different sport, excelling the way she's excelling and doing everything she's doing, it just adds another layer to kind of like the bond I have with that place and with my family. And
that's cool.
Yeah, she's doing great, and I just I try to make all the home games and everything, so I usually go to all of them, the home games at least, and she kicks butt. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Always cheering her on, so it's a great time.
So obviously, like you're playing football at BYU right now,
Yep.
and you played college basketball for a while.
Like 4 years, 5 years?
4 years.
4 years. So I guess my question is, what are you doing now? And I guess what's like the goal for both of you? Like once you're done with football, and I guess
now that
the
you're
goal
done
for
with
you
basketball.
moving forward.
Yeah.
If that
So,
goes along with what you're doing now.
College basketball was an interesting experience for me because I was hurt almost every single year and in pain in basically every single game.
Wow.
Lots of pain.
Lots of pain.
Lots of gain though, right?
Yeah. No,
Lots of mental gain.
The only way you can get to it is to laugh about it. But no, I had a successful career at Northwest Nazarene University. It's in Nampa, Idaho. Shout out to the Nazarene family. I'm not Nazarene myself. Shout out anyway. It was a good experience. Now, after doing that, I graduated with a history degree recently.
Oh, that's cool.
Very proud of that. Now, I work in the Idaho Senate for the Republican majority there. I'm an attaché, so essentially I help run the business side of the Senate. So I would compare it to being like a clerk for a judge.
Oh,
so
cool.
They still make you get coffee though, right?
No, I don't get the coffee. That's what the pages are for.
You ain't no page.
I'm an attaché. It's French.
Yeah, bro, I can
So,
tell.
yeah.
Attaché.
I don't like the French though.
Yeah, screw French people. Anyway.
I
Different.
don't want to get canceled here, so I won't go into the French people.
Do French have the authority to cancel?
Oh, they just retreat.
I think they do in
anyway.
France.
Yeah, they just they canceled themselves in like 2 days, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Got blitzed. So, but now, yeah. So I'm doing that now. I do a lot of research. I help run some personal stuff like constituency mail, emails, that sort of thing. But I'm learning a lot about how the process works in Idaho and within the Republican Party for how bills are made, how they get through. So it's really interesting to be a part of that. Process.
Is there like any big goals in the future, like running for Senate or anything?
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Okay.
Follow-up question.
One second, I'll answer his, and then I'll
Okay.
answer yours.
He's answering questions like a true politician.
Yeah. Honestly.
So no, I'd like to run for office in the future. Because number one, I really care about like the state of Utah. I really love this state. I love the people here. I love the people of Salem. I love the people of Idaho as well. So I'm kind of bouncing back and forth on whether I'm going to finally settle down here in Idaho. But number one, I really care about the people here. I care about the state a lot. It's done a lot for me. So that's the biggest thing is I really care about it and I'm passionate about it. Passionate about kind of what's going on in our country right now. Kind of the takeover that's going on in the culture, politically, all the developments there. So I've been really involved in that type of stuff. So yeah, I really think that I would try to pursue that career.
Awesome.
But obviously you got to do something first. You can't just be a career politician.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah,
likes
yeah.
that.
No.
I mean, 46th president of the United States, I won't say his name. I don't want to be taken off. But he's been a career politician all his life. So
Right.
I obviously got to do something worthwhile to benefit other people before I go into politics. So
I agree.
yeah.
What areas do you think you're going to go through on that? You know what I mean?
Maybe gardening.
Well,
gardening in the
agriculture. There's agricultural affairs is a real committee in the
Okay.
House and then the Senate. But no, I definitely would want to start on the state or city level first. State politics probably is the best form of politics because once you get to the national level, there's so much influence that's coming in from all around the country, all around the world. Like a congressman is in charge. Their district covers 750,000 people. So you're not really getting that real connection with your constituents. Versus in Idaho, for example, there's 2 million people who live there. There's 35 senators. So split that up, and you get a much more personal relationship with your constituents. And people who go into politics on the state level are usually much more sincere and motivated for the right reasons to be in politics. A lot of them are not going to be there for a long time. They're there to do certain things and then they get out. But you go to the national level, they're paid over $200,000 a year. They get to hobnob with celebrities and stars and go on network shows and go on overseas trips and get retirement and benefits. So on the state level, it's a lot more pure and it's a lot more honest, I would say. Although there is a lot of dishonesty in state politics. That's what I've learned in that you have to be on constant guard in politics. 'Cause the thing about politics is everybody's trying to get something. They're always trying to get an angle on you. They're always trying to get a little bit of distance between you and them. They're trying to, in some ways, take your spot or one of your competitors in your constituency are. So you got to be very careful about that and be on guard for your virtue.
I like it. So I like that. So you're big on. So it kind of seems like you're big on stewardship, where like you like the state level because you can have a more intimate stewardship over the people. Whereas if you go to a national level, the stewardship is over a vast amount of people, where it doesn't feel as intimate as maybe the state level.
Yeah, and that's part of my political philosophy. I believe very much so that states should be able to control what's going on in their own state, and that the federal government should exist only to balance the relationships between states for national goals. So the state government should be able to control the taxes. Obviously now abortion now is a states' right issue where it wasn't before. We should be able to control our culture and what's going on with our own laws as much as we possibly can, and that the federal government should deliver the mail, protect the border, which terrible at that, obviously.
Doing a horrible job.
Defend our country, maintain foreign relationships, those sorts of broad national things. It shouldn't be involved in, all the nasty stuff that's going on with all the agencies, for example. It's really the agencies that are the most out of control in our country. the agencies tell Congress, because what's happened is in the federal government is that Congress is so divided and so partisan that they've ceded all their powers to the president. So he either does executive orders or the Supreme Court has to intervene and legislate for Congress. So Congress has ceded all of its authority to those two areas. And so that's why Joe Biden does unprecedented executive orders, the most in history so far.
Then he set a record in like his first week in
office.
Yeah,
he set a record. I mean, canceling the Keystone Pipeline, for instance, I mean, he shouldn't have that ability and that authority to do that. But because Congress can't act on that, and because Congress, for instance, doesn't want to touch immigration because there's no agreement at all whatsoever, that agencies like Homeland Security and ICE, for example, those people who are really in charge of that, it's the agencies that are controlling what they really do. It's not Congress at all. So that's why I feel like a big priority for the next Republican administration should be to take out as much agency power as possible and return as much power to the states, because we can control ourselves and govern ourselves a lot better on a local basis than Joe Biden can.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest, he doesn't know where the hell he is.
So, do you think it's a good idea at all to like turn over almost, for example, what are our bordering states? We got Arizona, Texas, and
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
California.
Do you think they should have any power or say over like how protected the border is there, or do you think it should just be a federal issue?
Well, the states have to. I feel like states should be very aggressive with their power. They should be as aggressive as possible to push back. So, for instance, you see Texas now. I believe they've mobilized their National Guard to a certain extent to take care of the border problem there. They're building their own wall through state funds. So they're trying to handle that problem themselves, but that really should be a federal level. And Joe Biden could sign an executive order, which is kind of sad when you think about it, that he has to sign an executive order to take care of the border. But they don't want to do that for political reasons, which is really sad. But no, states should be as aggressive as possible in that issue. And the fact that it's continuing to go on is really sad.
Yeah, I agree.
What are your thoughts on the recent balloon fiasco?
John, this is one thing John brought up when we talk about, like, we got to talk about the balloon.
Chinese spy balloon.
And didn't he just shoot down like two just rando balloons?
Balloon.
It's a rumor going around.
The balloon was from a party store. It was $12 at a local. It was some sort of. They called themselves like this battalion, this penny battalion or whatever. What they do is they figured out that if you send up a balloon filled with helium, with a ham radio attached to it, that at certain points it could just move itself, like it would be able to just stay in the atmosphere, because of the helium in the balloon. So it was a $12 balloon with a ham radio attached to it, and we shot a missile from a jet that cost $400,000. And Joe Biden said, "You're not sending that balloon over in my state." The $400,000 missile missed the balloon on the first shot and ended up killing a civilian. And it took another missile to take it down.
Yeah, where'd you hear that from, Jim?
Is this true?
It's true. Look it up.
I saw the $400,000, like a $400,000 Sidewinder missile.
It was.
So they shot from like a F-22 or something.
Yeah, and it was over.
I saw that, but I didn't know it missed.
I knew one of them missed. I didn't know it killed someone, but
Yeah.
I saw it miss.
It was from the Wall Street Journal. It was like a U.S. aid worker was killed.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I mean, So Joe Biden's obviously terrible at his job. So what happened was...
really?
I didn't know that. The Chinese sent over a balloon. It went from Guam through Alaska and then down from northern Idaho through Montana, through basically all the important missile sites in our country. Went from Idaho, Montana, all the way through South Dakota to South Carolina. And then they ended up shooting it after it had passed over all the important sites.
After it spied over everything.
After it got all the information it needed. Right?
After day one at 9 a.m., some dude in Montana was hunting geese.
It took 7 days.
Saw a balloon.
It took 7 days for them to shoot it down. And what's crazy is that they tracked it and they knew it was heading over the continental United States. but their plan was to cover it up and hide it because they didn't want to inform the American people that this balloon was going over there. And for whatever reason, they said it was too big to shoot down.
Wow, what?
There was concerns. There was concerns that it would fall on a school because the balloon itself actually ended up being like as big as 2 school buses. Like it was actually a very big balloon for however big a balloon can get. Really,
Right.
it ended up being bigger than they thought. And why you couldn't shoot it down over Yellowstone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that place is,
Especially
beavers,
in the
man.
winter, like
The beavers.
It's not a ton going on.
and it had sophisticated spyware capabilities.
It's a slow-moving
but I mean, we
subconscious
shot it
mind.
after it had done all the important stuff, so at least we got it down. You know.
Yeah, at least we got it down after it got everything it needed.
Yeah. So what do you think?
What do I think about the Chinese spy balloon?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's one of the most interesting things that's ever happened to me in my life.
That is
At least
like
hearing about it.
it's a life altering thing in our
Yeah,
generation.
honestly.
Freaking balloon.
Feels like, you know,
But
once every 4 months or something that's going to go in a
I
textbook one
know.
day.
But he said Joe Biden said, "Don't worry, they've been doing this for years."
Oh, I'm not worried at all now. That's great. So, but like Cooper was saying, but now there seems like they're shooting something down every day.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I think
what are they
they're-
shooting down?
Because it's for political reasons. What happened is they got embarrassed by the spy balloon because he looked obviously incompetent. And so what happened was they turned up the radio, not the radio, the satellite radar. They turned up the radar sensitivity up a watt. And so they just started shooting down all these balloons from all over. There was one report that said one of them thinks that, you know those things that flap up and down from a used car? Those balloons?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I heard somebody say that they weren't totally sure if they could rule out the possibility that it was one of those that they shot down.
That was just like flying in there.
Yeah, because
Well, he's trying to buy a car and all of a sudden a missile hits it and you're just dead.
I mean,
You're just done.
but that's how, honestly, when people talk about conspiracy theories, that sophisticated conspiracy theories that our government hides from us,
Yeah.
people in government are morons.
Yeah.
They're not that clever.
Time out. What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
My favorite conspiracy theory?
Epstein Island.
Let me give you something to stew on.
Oh baby.
Bigfoot, real or not?
Oh.
I'm going to have to say no.
I'm saying
You're going,
real.
you're going real? You're going
Yeah,
real? I'm team real. I want it to be real.
I want it to be real too.
I think maybe not Bigfoot like people think, but Bigfoot-esque creature running around.
Yeah.
Or
I'll
what?
tell you what,
Like a primate.
you guys
Maybe.
ever listen to Forrest Galante? You know who that is? On Joe Rogan?
Oh wait.
Was
You
he
know,
just on there?
He's the dude that has the beard without a mustache. He's the white guy.
Did
You
he
know
talk
that?
about the man
Not
that's
remember
in
him.
Siberia?
No.
That one, yeah.
Oh, it is
No,
that one? No, it's not that one.
I don't know. But they found a extinct species of lemur on an island in Indonesia.
Yeah.
Like
There's been-
last week.
They found traces of that sort of thing, but that it went extinct. I think hundreds or thousands of years ago. There was something like that on the North American continent, but that it's gone.
Aren't they
extinct.
finding like a whole bunch of different like primate-esque creatures that have been
In Indonesia, bro.
in Indonesia, and like also I think they're like different kind of like humans, right? Like because
Yeah.
like all humans aren't like technically the same species. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So like they're finding like different types of humans that have gone extinct. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there've been several variations. I guess on the buffet. We were the ones who survived.
Yeah, we didn't taste that good, bruh.
Well, the weird thing is like, you know, you hear like Homo sapiens and then like the Neanderthals.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like we're Homo sapiens, right? But the Neanderthals never went extinct. They just like bred with the Homo sapiens, and now all of us have a little bit of Neanderthal in us.
Russians more so than anyone.
Russians are,
Dude,
they're like 67%.
Dude, I had
Yeah.
this. I just moved out of my house in Provo, but I had a roommate
Uh-huh.
that one was mission Ukraine back
Oh,
before
really?
I went nuts. Dude, some of the stories he would tell about these Ukrainian people,
Just nuts. Huh?
just the craziest things you ever heard in your life.
They don't
bro.
give a shit.
Dude, it's awesome, bro. He was, his name is Burke Nickerson. If you see this, bro, good dude. We just had lunch the other
Great,
day.
dude.
Yeah, so he served in Ukraine from 2019 to 2021, March, both times.
Yeah.
So he had a year of COVID and a year without COVID. And he would just tell me the stories about how, like, they'd just save money in these people just save money every day to buy vodka, and then they drink enough vodka through the night to keep them warm because it was so cold, and just do it all over again.
Oh my gosh.
Just crazy.
Didn't you tell a story about how there was a guy, because they didn't they'd get paid for recycling there or something like that, like the homeless people do. So these people dedicate their entire lives to finding these cans, and apparently he had vodka with him. He had this vodka with him, and he was smoking a cigarette, and he spilled the vodka.
Oh my
and
gosh.
dropped a cigarette on it.
Oh
But
my
he said that he was in this big dumpster, this metal dumpster, and that the dumpster lit on fire while he was in there, but he was still searching for cans
He was just so plastered.
because he was so proud.
He was just so far gone.
Dude, was he plastered or was he freaking dedicated?
Well, and what do you say?
He was doing it for the motherland.
Everybody there is named either Ivan
Or Igor.
Or Igor.
I know Igor.
Yeah. Ivan, Igor, a lot of Vladislavs.
And he said that people would just walk up to him and go, Donald Trump.
Yeah. The people in Ukraine love Donald
They
Trump.
love Donald Trump.
That's
They would just
awesome.
walk up to him and say, Donald Trump.
Then walk off.
Yeah, just say it and just walk away. Yeah, no, but yeah, Ukraine, bro. That's Eastern Europe doesn't get enough love. That place is like, people say Alaska's the last frontier. I think Eastern Europe's like up there.
I think it's up there too.
I saw this video and these people were like clicking, it was like a GeoGuessr thing or whatever, and they were clicking the countries in Europe. And there's some countries like Kosovo. You ever heard of Kosovo?
Yeah, Kosovo.
Kosovo. Yeah. That's a place. Didn't know that existed.
There's a lot of those little places in Europe, like
Like Moldova.
Moldova. That's a great, Moldova.
Moldova? What?
Moldova is actually part of a controversy right now because
Really?
the West is alleging that Putin wants to take over Moldova and install a puppet government there because Moldova is in Eastern Europe and has close proximity towards Russia. And so there's I just saw Moldova in the news the other day. So, but I just read an article, or I saw something that Russia, one of their top generals or direct commanders of the war, maybe an administrative side, she fell 155 feet to her death the other day.
On accident.
Just fell, huh?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are falling in Russia these days from great heights.
Yeah, lots of ice there, I guess. Lots of slippers.
Too much Smirnoff, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, dog. Freaking vodka and ice is all it is, man.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
That's another thing that I think is weird, like the Russia-Ukraine war. Like I feel like we
Isn't
don't
that
hear
so-
anything
isn't
about
that
it.
so
here.
crazy? I don't think we hear something about it just because
No,
it's
like I see like clips here and one. Like I saw a clip, like a tank ran over a car a while ago.
yeah.
It just doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Like, I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, I have it so well right now. You know what I mean? Like, how is there a war going on over there? I'm
And
just
it's crazy because I think I've seen estimates that so far at least hundreds of thousands of troops have died.
oh my
I
god.
think Ukraine has suffered well over 100,000 casualties on the battlefield. Russia, I think it's anywhere from 150 to 200,000.
Do you think Russia's a little bit embarrassed because they thought it'd be a lot easier, and they're just like, they feel like they just got kicked in the nuts, and
Well,
they're red in the face now?
They took Crimea in 2014 in a matter of days or maybe weeks. So I mean, and they've been having these small engagements on the Ukrainian border since 2014. But they thought that they were going to be in Kiev.
Well, I don't know.
I don't
Kyiv.
even know. Kyiv. That's how I pronounce it.
It's politically correct way to say it. You know?
Yeah. Well, do they have? I don't want to misgender them.
Yeah, that'd be a shame. There's no
so-
gay people in Russia. You're fine.
It's actually illegal there.
That's why, isn't it actually illegal to be gay in Russia?
I
So
know,
you're
yeah.
good.
That's tough. That's why I hate them.
But
That's
what's
why I'll
funny
never.
is
Screw those
Russian
guys.
propaganda is stating that Ukraine is filled with gay Jewish
really?
demons, and that they're
Gay
fight.
Jewish
Yeah, no, actually look this up.
Wow.
So it was on the Peter Zayan. Zion. He was just on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he's an expert on that. He was talking about how their propaganda is saying that. Well, first of all, they were all Nazis, but Vladimir Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, is he's Jewish, so how can you be a Nazi and be Jewish?
Yeah.
Obviously. But then after that, the propaganda turned towards now they're fighting gay Jewish demons.
Wow.
So now they're trying to turn it into a spiritual war. But and they're just mobilized another 300 to 500,000 troops.
Oh my gosh.
And so they're actually making steady gains in Ukraine right now because we just gave Ukraine hundreds of tanks. The Western NATO did. So they're making steady progress on the Eastern Front in Ukraine right now to try and get a foothold before Ukraine makes a push in the spring. So
Interesting.
there's a sad possibility that this is just going to continue to escalate and escalate.
To, unfortunately, World War III.
That
God forbid.
That depends on whether or not we have a realistic policy there, because
You're saying we have a bullshit policy?
we just don't have a policy at
Don't have
all.
a
The
policy
money
at all.
that what we're doing is we're just giving them a lot of money and a lot of weaponry. That's what and hoping that they win, right? But now we don't have what President Biden should do is force them to come together and negotiate and say, okay,
Ukraine and Russia?
yeah,
Okay.
and they could say, okay, you guys are both going to get something out of this. Ukraine, you get to come into NATO, right? So you can be defended from Russia in the future, because NATO is a North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and anybody who attacks a NATO country starts World War III, and so Russia doesn't want that, but Russia wants a territory that it's had, that it's conquered so far. So what President Biden needs to do is bring them both together and say, okay, Russia, you get this, Ukraine, you get that. We're going to set up a border. We're going to have a verifiable border based on the United States or some other third party to be able to verify their territorial, what they get to control and govern. But we're not going to do that because President Biden doesn't want to look soft on Ukraine. So what we're doing is we're just giving them all this weaponry, all this money. We've given them like $100 billion or something like that. We're giving them all this weaponry, all this money, all the support, and it's part of it's necessary because number one, if they take Ukraine, then they're up on the border of Poland, and if they strike into Poland, then it starts World War III, right?
Because Poland is part of NATO.
They're part of NATO, so we don't want that to happen. But what Ukraine wants now is us to join the war formally. They also want to be able to get U.S. fighter jets. They want a lot of different things, and we simply cannot afford to do that. But what's happening is it's slowly escalating more and more and more, and we're not even having any strings attached to the money that we're giving them. So a lot of it, we don't even know where it's going. So it's kind of just like, I don't know, closing your eyes and throwing a dart and hoping that it hits the board. So we don't have a realistic policy there. We're just giving them more money and weapons, but we really need to engage in a diplomatic way and try to bring both sides to the table and figure this out before it escalates more and more. Because what happened in World War I is that for like a year and a half, there was this dark war, kind of this hidden war going on between Russia and Germany and France and in England, and it ended up just escalating more and more into World War One. So that's what people are really worried about. We need to have a clear policy there, not just write them blank checks, not just give them all of the weaponry that they need, obviously weaponry, but have it limited and with strings attached to it to be able to bring both parties to the table.
That makes sense.
A lasting peace.
I just think it's crazy how like you don't hear anything about like if that many people really are dying. You think like people would be kind of like covering it more. You'd hear more about it on the news and stuff, but it's like they're just like totally going about like don't hear anything about it.
Yeah, no, I mean there's a big war going on right now in Bakhmut. I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but I think it's Bahkmut is how you spell it, I believe, which is a big, because if you take that, there's all these roads and railways that connect to it. So Russia is trying to take that city right now, so it's under siege constantly. So they're firing, I mean, Russia's firing at civilian centers, they're firing at hospitals, they're taking out the electric grid. So we don't see a lot of that. A lot of it is being reported. But it depends on who you watch, right? If you watch CNN or MSNBC, for political reasons, they're obviously going to want to play that up more and more. Fox News, you're probably not going to see it as much, but it is happening, and they're very much suffering over there, and so I really feel bad because it's tens of thousands of civilian lives have been lost. We don't even actually know how many lives have been lost.
Quick timeout. Were you in Portugal when this whole thing started?
Let's see. I'd been home just a little bit though. It started in January, didn't it? Like February of 2022.
February of 2022.
Yeah, I've been home. I was home for like 4 months at that point.
Gotcha.
But my cousin, he was serving in Ukraine when it broke out.
Oh yeah, what was that all about?
So he was there when it broke out. So he was there, like kind of you heard all about ramping up. Russia's bringing people to the borders. Oh, it's a training exercise. So the church was watching that pretty heavily. So while that was all going on, the church took the missionaries from Ukraine and moved them over to a country right next to it, but I don't know which one it was at the moment. But a country right next to Ukraine, and basically the church like, we just gotta get you guys out of here. So they got him out. But yeah, he was there during the whole thing, and he said the day he left, his companion was from Ukraine. He said when he left his companion was in a military uniform.
Holy snap!
When he said goodbye to his companion, his last companion.
Yeah, they're all fighting over there.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's what's really crazy is Russia is really underperforming. They don't have a lot of advanced technology.
They need some freaking
instead of
blue
using
chew, brother.
instead,
They need an ounce of freedom.
they use a lot of duct tape over there. I mean, they're delivering
AKs.
they're delivering troops in shaggy Scooby Doo buses is what they call them. they're really just they have.
So do we
The
overestimate
soldiers-
Russia?
Absolutely. We overestimate Russia because we think of them in Cold War terms still. They're a different beast now. What they want to do is their population is dying off so much, and so the birth rate is just collapsing in most countries across the world. Well, especially in the Western world, Europe is, Asia is for sure. Africa, not as much.
They having babies, bro.
Yeah,
They
no.
pop them out.
Antarctica's kept a steady birth rate for years.
Years, that's impressive.
But
Really impressive.
they're trying to get as much territory as they can before their population basically dies out completely. Because what's happening is they're not going to be able to afford to send troops like this ever again, because they're not going to just have young people, because people are just not having kids over there. Same thing in South Korea. They're having each family's having like one kid.
Yeah.
China's having like one kid per family. The United States, it's like 1.8 or 1.9. So we're just barely replacing ourselves. So Russia is trying to gain all this territory right now, before the population dies out and they can't expand their territory and their empire anymore. Obviously, Putin wants to be known in history as a great leader. So there's a lot of different interesting motivations from the Russian Empire to try and grab as much land as they can right now.
Which is weird because they have such an excessive amount of land. Like, what is more land to them? I don't get.
So what happened was, Poland, Ukraine, Hungary, all those countries were part of the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. But when the Soviet Union officially collapsed in 1991, all those countries became independent and they became democracies. Ukraine culturally has been a part of Russia for hundreds of years, since like the 1500s. It's hard. Ukraine is not like what Mexico is to us or what Canada is to us. Ukraine really is very similar to Russia, and there's a lot of people in Ukraine who want to be Russians.
Okay.
It'd almost be like the difference between just states within the U.S.
Yeah, so it's like people in the South didn't really recognize themselves as Americans until really after World War II. Like they were Alabamans, they were South Carolinians, they were Texans, right? It was really World War II that brought them together. Yeah. Ukraine, a lot of Ukraine wants to be part of Russia still. A lot of Ukraine wants to be its own thing. So there's an interesting dynamic, because part of what Russia is saying that Ukraine has been theirs historically is true, but they still should have the right to govern themselves, to be their own sovereign nation. Of course. So it's a really interesting dynamic going on there. But yeah, I don't think anybody was expecting the war to go on this long, number one. But it shows you really how weak Russia is. If they didn't have nuclear weapons, NATO would be able to conquer Russia within a matter of like 6 months. Yeah. I mean, they're poorly equipped. They're poorly trained. They're poorly motivated. A lot of them are just deserting. They actually have to hire out other mercenary groups. It's called the Wagner Group to actually fight, and that's who's
Really?
actually gained the most ground.
The Russian mercenaries that just
Are
love
they
to kill
are
people?
Russian? They're hiring them? Just Russian?
It's called the Wagner Group.
Where are they from?
I think
The
they're
mercenaries, bro.
they're from Russia, but they
They're-
might
turns out they're
be
American,
from
They go to Wagner looking for a fresh start. And just
yeah, might
have
be
to
called
fight for it.
Wagner because it's Eastern Russia. I don't know, but they're I think they're from Russia, but they also pull from other countries. So
It's like the Hessians, like in the Revolutionary War. With
the Hessians.
The Hessians, yeah.
The Hessians, yeah. So, but if Russia didn't have nuclear weapons, and they've got like 2,000 nuclear tipped missiles, so they're a dangerous country.
Very equipped.
So right now, I mean, we have to be smart. We have to play. We have to be sober in our assessment of what we're doing there. It's not going to be like World War II. It's a completely different ball game.
You're not just gonna go there and sling lead at each other. It's a whole different ball game.
No, because I mean, if Russia, they can very well send nuclear missiles into London, into Belgium, into basically any part of Europe and all across the world.
Yeah, that's
so
scary shiz right
so that's
there.
why we have to. It's
And I
gonna be
think-
it's gonna be such a nasty but limited war. That's what it has to be. And Ukraine, if they can push the Russians back into Russia, then we can hopefully negotiate and broker some sort of peace between them, because we can't have this thing spiral out of control.
Yeah.
Dude, like another thing real quick is, I can't remember where I heard this, but I think I was in high school or whatever, but they used to have like a fear in the Cold War that like the Russians would put missile sites like along the North Pole and shoot them over the North Pole that way instead of like around the world. So we think about like going around the world, it would take a long time. They
That's
just
true.
go over the top.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I think they have a
never thought of
bunch, or I don't know if they still do, but they had a bunch like right next to Alaska, right? Just right along there.
I'm not exactly sure. They had a lot in Ukraine. Ukraine actually
Yeah.
gave up its nuclear weapons in the 1990s.
So Ukraine, because when they were part of the Soviet
Yeah.
Union, they had a lot of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, you know what else is crazy with like Ukraine is like the Chernobyl thing.
Yeah.
If you guys know what Chernobyl is?
Yeah,
Have you
that
heard of
nuclear
have
reactor.
have you seen it on HBO?
Mm-mm.
There's a 5-episode miniseries on Chernobyl. It's really good.
It's
You need to watch it, but-
it's creepy.
It's really creepy, but
it's
like
there's nothing that lives there, just like animals and shiz, right?
yeah, and they have like no heads in 4 years or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, I think I've seen clips of that. Like some guy kind of goes in there and they do like the
Dude,
radiation tests.
Yeah, but like you think like it's just crazy like the radiation like effect or like things that are radioactive, just like how destructive they actually are, is like obviously like we're not scientists or whatever, but it's like to the point where it's like it was affecting like the entire world. It wasn't just
Yeah.
that spot. Like it was crazy.
Yeah,
but
so
that was
that's
but
why-
that was in Ukraine.
Because nobody's going to win a nuclear war. So the real success in politics now is the prevention of war.
Right.
So that's why ultimately, once Russia invaded, we didn't really have a choice. We had to support Ukraine. Really, the failure is our lack of success in preventing Russia from invading. So with China and Taiwan, China obviously wants Taiwan. So our success there is not going to be about whether or not we can defeat China once they try and take over Taiwan. Our success should be measured by preventing them from taking Taiwan at all, because these things can spiral out of control very quickly.
But how do you prevent that?
Well, so what we're doing is we're trying to turn them into a porcupine, essentially. Porcupines obviously have all the spikes on their back, and you never want to grab a porcupine because it's going to hurt like hell, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to arm them to the teeth with as much guns, as much weapons as they can, which they're doing right now. But with the Taiwan, what's really interesting is that like 90% of the microchips, the very advanced microchips, are made in Taiwan.
Right.
Well, we're going to start producing them in Arizona and in other places in the United States to try and build up our own infrastructure here. But chips right now is like what oil was in the 1930s.
Okay.
So, for instance, we've barred China completely from using our chips. Taiwan, I believe, we're all trying to prevent China from gaining access and information to our chips. So that's kind of like we did an oil embargo in Japan in the 1930s.
Yeah.
Because they invaded China and the Philippines. So what we're trying to do is do that, but with chips, because those chips are in your cars or in your TVs or in your phones. They're in plants. I mean, so it's going to take 10 years to build these plants. These microprocessors is what they're called, I believe. But we're going to need to do that in this country. And we're bringing a lot of supply chains home because during the pandemic that highlighted for sure, like we can't produce life-saving medication in China.
Yeah.
Masks in China, ventilators in China. If we have a national problem, a worldwide problem. So that's why we're bringing a lot of that stuff home.
Gotcha. Well, heck, that's a lot to digest there, brother.
Yeah, no, it's
But
an
it's good,
interesting
though.
world we're living in.
I know you guys got to get. I know it's John's birthday today. John, happy freaking birthday.
Thanks, man.
Happy
How old are
birthday,
you?
man.
21.
Dude.
And what do we do in Utah when you turn 21?
We get flipping going to Fuego Friday in Provo.
Dude,
That's where we're going.
that's
Oh, you're
awesome.
still going to say go to Vegas.
Dude,
Wendover.
We let the
Window.
Diet Coke flow in this state.
Diet
You
Coke
turn
and Diet
21.
Dr. Pepper, brother. But dude, you guys are awesome. Dude, guys, whenever you guys want, you want to schedule a podcast, we'll do one. This is really fun.
Can I start my
I-
own podcast and have you two on here?
Please,
Sure.
please.
Cool.
Or James, when you want to announce your presidency run.
I'll do it
We'd be
on
on
this
here.
spot.
Here.
James, you had a podcast there for a minute.
I did.
I remember that now.
It was called the Spirit of 76 podcast. And I liked it a lot. It's actually a lot more work because I was editing it and doing it all
Yeah.
myself. It was a lot of work, but I learned a lot about how that process goes. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes when it comes to a podcast that are much more difficult than people realize.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun with it. I did probably 7 or 8 episodes.
Is it going to make a return?
Maybe when I run for office. Maybe when I'm in office.
I got to feel the spirit, Jim.
But
Spirit
you know,
of
it's hard to
76.
it's hard to do a political podcast when you're playing college sports because you
Yeah.
got a lot of teammates who obviously disagree with you. So that's
That's
ultimately
a
the
good
reason
point,
why
yeah.
I stopped doing
That's a
it.
good point.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, you're not playing ball anymore.
I know.
Now you're just an attaché.
But there's rules that we have where we can't have we can't express certain political opinions while we're working for the Senate.
That
We
makes
have to be
sense.
kind of nonpartisan. So that's why I won't say anything bad about anybody but the 46th president.
He's a great president, I thought. He's the best.
He wakes up every morning and he learns he's president.
He kind of wakes up in the morning. He
has his oatmeal. He puts in his dentures. His wife tells him he's president.
I imagine like a 51st Dates vibe, like just popping the DVD for him every morning.
To remind
Little
him.
Pops up. Good morning, Joe.
Have you seen him walk around?
were
He walks
president.
around.
That's pretty funny.
He walks around and he's like
He's
this.
lost, man.
Hey, what's going on?
He stares at walls way too long.
I know.
man.
And they actually have to remove the wires from his walking path because they're so concerned that he'll trip over the wires.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he already has trouble with stairs, so.
And bikes.
Yeah.
And bikes.
And bikes. And being president. Yeah, that's a big problem with that.
Loves ice cream, though. You give him that.
Yeah. He likes. Yeah. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that.
And illegal immigration.
He does like it. Yeah. Seems like he likes. Well,
And little girls.
I was gonna say that, but you said it,
No.
not me. But I did.
I mean, his brain might not function, but his nose is certainly functioning.
His nose is high functioning.
He got a sniffer on him.
He does. Or maybe he doesn't, and that's why he has to get so close. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows?
All right, brothers. Thanks, guys.
All right, team.
Shake my hand, John.
It was a pleasure.
That was nice.
It was a pleasure.
Good having you on.
Yep.